And I'm thinking, no way would you play on my mind and go and start waving bye-bye.
Hi.
Hello.
That was a proper flirt moment, wasn't it?
I love the hand. Brilliant. How are you?
I'm well. I'm good because it's sunny, and I've realised the older I get, the more solar powered I am.
Oh, okay.
Like a tortoise. Yeah.
Fantastic.
They're also solar powered.
So you're quite excited then, because it looks like the forward weather forecast
Yeah.
is
We're
looking
going to have
great.
a really good May, allegedly, which is great.
Fingers crossed.
But yeah, and I have my little niece has come down, so I'm going to be playing with her all day.
Oh.
Hopefully we're going to go and look for some frogs.
Okay.
Rachel said exactly the same.
Wow.
She was like, yeah, we're going to go on a frog hunt. Or a duckling hunt.
Oh.
Because there are ducklings and ducks that can walk around.
Do that. Oh
Yeah.
gosh. How's your week been?
Week has been... It's been good. I had to do an airport run in the middle of the week, actually, which meant getting up at 3 a.m. and then continuing my day as if it's normal. And I sort of steadily made up for that throughout the rest of the week.
Wow.
But yeah, no, I know.
Okay.
The things you do for love.
Yeah. Taxi.
Yeah, I know. From there, we're like, never doing this again.
Oh gosh.
What about you?
My week. Oh, it's been a weird week.
Because it was bank holiday.
It throws me completely.
It does.
I'm so routine. I go to work 5 days a week, 2 days off.
Yeah.
Eat healthy 5 days, 2 days off. Gym 5 days, 2 days off. As soon as there's an extra day, I'm actually thrown.
The system.
Yeah. But it's been one of those weeks.
Yeah.
And we've all said it.
And it was a full moon.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I've jumped there.
Okay.
You said in the week we had this conversation, and it was funny. It was very un-Laura. But you sort of said, I think apparently they're all talking about the moon.
Yeah. Phases of the moon. And
Phases of the moon. It's time.
Mm.
But hopefully...
I also wonder, going back to the weather, because we had that summer for 3 days.
Yes.
And then it ploughed back down. Maybe that's part of it as well. So now we're all on the up because this is it.
Totally, yes.
Summer has arrived again.
No, I think you're right. It was a sudden dip of, it's not actually going to be warm.
Yeah. Hey ho, new week.
Anyway.
When do you start your week? This is really weird off track.
What do you
Are you a Saturday, a Sunday, or a Monday? Are you a Monday?
I choose it's Monday now, yeah.
Yeah, no, same.
Which I guess I always had, in the past, there's been a time where my week was just that carousel of it just does not matter.
Yeah.
And now I'm being...
Band life.
Yeah, exactly. And for a bit, for band life, the Tuesday and Wednesday became our weekend because obviously your work days were always a weekend. But
Okay. Right, we are going to catch up on recording.
Cool.
Specifically, Joplin House, which is where you recorded Overboard this year. Now, obviously, we've done an episode on Overboard itself, but the recording process, and more so because Joplin House, as its former Anchor Baby Studios, you'd recorded there before, so it was a return.
Yeah, it's mad because actually, so this studio that I recorded at, now called Joplin House, was I went in there January to record Overboard very recently, and the last time I stepped into that recording studio was in 2012, and we had no idea what was going to come of any of the music we made in there. It was with the band. It was so long ago. Didn't really know any of the people in the band very well at all at that point. Yeah. So it was like the very beginning of such a huge journey, and then to come back full circle and end there as the first thing Dulcima does, a solo, was really good. And what was really cool is the space itself is lovely. It's in the middle of absolutely nowhere, which a lot of studios are. Perfect. To be like absolutely remote. And but Dan Lucas is the producer, the recording engineer, and he was there the whole time as well. Like he'd never left it. It's his. So obviously I met him when I was early 20s, just late teens, can't remember now. All that time ago. And then to sort of, there's not a huge amount of reason that we kept in touch in between, but then to re-meet him almost, or catch up with him the other month was just amazing. Nice. And he'd seen the whole progression of all his recordings got really big. Like the band actually made quite a lot for Dan, not money wise, but like a lot for in terms of credibility and things like that. So it was quite. I think I must check with him on that, but I think that's right.
So was he fairly new as a studio? But are you roughly all around the same age?
He's a little older. No, yeah, he's a bit older than me. But he wasn't too new because by the time when we first recording in 2012, he was definitely set up and fully he was fully established definitely by that point because that's I think otherwise we wouldn't have found him anyway. But yeah. Yeah, no,
but he's local Kent.
Local Kent,
Yeah.
And what's really cool about what he's done, he's never changed what he does. Like he says, I record, and he has certain types of music he knows he wants to record. So if an act comes to him and says, I want to be a gangster rapper, which is just out of that remit, for example, it might not be that, but he'll say he knows that's not his bag. He knows that this studio, the best kind of sounds are sort of indie rock or pop punk or sort of singer-songwriter stuff, but yeah, it's just really cool. And then the space itself. Now this is really funny because right at the start, the lads in the band, everyone would say like, "Oh, it really matters about what the space is," and I'd be like, "Why? You're just you're in a booth recording. I don't really care what the kitchen looks like." And I sort of still do slightly hold to that because I'm just like, well, you're there for a job technically, but if you're a musician, it's actually about making art. And it's about the feelings you have when you walk into a space because it might make you sing differently and it's the space that it was then, but especially now as Joplin House, Dan has made a massive point to make it really just quirky, cool, but very comfortable.
Yeah.
So you do feel a bit like elevated walking in there. And I think that's maybe part of it. You have to walk in and think, yeah. And then you've got this sort of tiny amount of confidence that helps you when you're recording, I think.
That's really funny. And I'm sure we'll do a proper sort of recording in the band house because that's obviously such a massive part.
Yeah.
But
oh my God,
saying that, I don't know what your feeling was, and I'd say we'll probably go into this, but when I first started with the band, we were recording, I think there was an EP first and then obviously the album.
Yeah.
And that was James's baby.
Yeah.
The live room and everything. And I remember the conversation of, right, we need lights and we'll have like shawls over the lights for the colours, and I brought in some upstand lights and I'm like, why are we redecorating that? Like, what is going on?
Just get the kit, surely.
And it was, but it was, no, you wanted the aesthetic to be right for everybody.
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm like, what a waste of time. Like, just record the album. Come on.
Yeah,
record. But yeah, when you say it like that, and I don't know whether obviously it did mean something to you guys because otherwise you wouldn't have done it, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But whether it meant less because it was home. And it was just, you're walking, I'm going upstairs to record, I'm going down, I'm going upstairs. So yeah, when you walk into someone else's space, you appreciate it possibly that bit more.
Definitely.
But it was very interesting to see this room, and people have seen it on lives and stuff.
Yeah.
And it might just look like, an attic space, but
but
no, there was a lot of effort.
There was a lot of thought. And I think, I just knocked that. I think some of the things with, like, James especially was modelling his space and the way he operated on what the big people do. He always had names he loved, like Mike Crossy, people that have recorded all the things that are on the radio, and they have that kind of mentality. And it's so funny because actually that extends to how even to treat the musicians. And it's really funny because despite anything that was going on literally full or below, which was our domestic space, all the any rifts or madness or whatever the politics were going on down there, the moment we came up here, this does not count for everyone, but this did count for James. He went into very professional recording engineer mode. And then I came in as obviously a singer. Before it was just like, Dulce, can you just get something sung? And we'd critique it and tweak it until it was, what they wanted. James went into this like, no, if you want to break, or if you want to have, even just whatever, you tell me, you're the one in charge. And I remember being like, it was like, okay, Green Pass, you're allowed to be a diva now. Not that I ever was, but it was just sort of, it is really important if you need to stop or rest or any weird other straight singers do, all the famous singers, a lot of them will have their routines that they go through or rituals they need to do. And you have all these recording engineers just having to kind of go with it. You can't, there's no point battling with the singer for that because you need them to be in their best headspace to sing their best.
I think this was the same. We're really going off.
Well, no, I think it's a really interesting topic, like
Yeah.
just recording in general.
Yes,
in all the spaces
absolutely.
we've recorded in. There's a
Well, yeah,
lot.
because I was going to say, it's funny because when we recorded Invader, it was the same thing.
Yeah.
And Matt was saying to you, right, go and take a break, go and have a hot drink, go and
Yeah.
whether he could hear something in you or he just had that sort of time allowance of you've done enough.
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm like, I've seen her work for hours.
No,
Mate,
I know.
come on.
No,
We're paying for all this stuff. Let's just get on.
use it.
But by the end of the day, like we had a fantastic experience up there. But like you were done.
Oh my God, yeah.
And I'm such a bitch for saying it. But it's like in my head, I'm like, that's not really done this thing. Just come on.
Yeah, chill out.
But no, it really is.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's so demanding on you to record, but how you're treated in these places is
it makes a huge difference. And there's actually with recording, the more we're speaking about it, the more I'm realizing that there's huge amounts to say, because that was an example, and we should do that as a separate whole chat. But it brings into play the social dynamic of everything. If you're first meeting someone, and I think so at Vader, I first met Matt very recently. I change when I'm meeting someone. I have to use a lot more energy.
Yeah.
Because it's the same. Everyone, when you're friends with someone, you relax. You don't care. You just say what you think. You're not sort of filtering or anything. And that, in a way, that was what was so good with Dan at Joplin House, was this kind of stepping straight back into old times.
Yeah.
Knew him, had known him for years. He was so kind of like, you need that person to be relaxed and not overbearing as well. Often recording engineers are really calm because they've learned they have to be.
Yeah.
But it is, and the other thing, if you have lots of people, again, you're spending so much energy on all of just being in the room.
Yeah.
And the kind of navigating around, just the socialness of it, rather than just chilling out until you're, in the booth performing. And again, if you're slightly because in the history of recording at home, effectively, there would be all sorts of characters that would come and go.
I was going to say this, yeah.
And that's another thing we should definitely talk about, because it was like, that would have changed the way, that made a definite impact on the songs you would have heard.
Yeah. It was something that was said, I think, around recording the album time, and you're like, I don't want anyone upstairs. And you didn't want to come across the wrong way. And you absolutely didn't.
Doing that.
And it was the band, me, and I don't even think Raph was around at the time, but it was like, just that was it.
Minimal.
Stop inviting.
It was
it's not
a party.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, it is funny. But at some point, we did, really early on in Alps era, all those years, James took a recording setup out to Switzerland, and then we took it around to France as well when we lived in France for a bit. So we had this it was a very bedroom studio setup, but we filled the open space that we could with it. And that was weird as well. So we were just recording very ad hoc, and just experimenting, trying things out, different people standing in different places as opposed to where the mic was. Yeah. And again, that was like recording in the middle of the sitting room with someone making their dinner, with someone on the phone over there, and it was a crash course for just learning how to, no inhibitions, just do the job.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the argument you just had with someone, or the little funny look someone just gave you, or whatever, because there was absolutely no transition time between the two.
And but bizarrely, you actually, how to completely out myself here, love a bit of One Direction. I managed to fall in love with them 10 years after they were actually a thing. Don't ask why. But you see people of that caliber, towards the end of their run. Yeah. They did tour movies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they'd have the hotel rooms booked out and book an extra hotel room to record.
Yeah.
And there's videos of the guys stood between mattresses, more so because of their time schedule.
Yeah, definitely.
They go on a world tour, you have to record the next album to release the next album to go and tour it but it isn't always the really nice expensive studio.
No, exactly. And you're right. And a lot of the thing, because I was thinking in those situations, it's not like they can hire out the nearest recording studio for a day.
No.
Because there are continuations they'll want within the album. So they do have to use the same exact equipment and all this sort of thing.
And it shows it works.
And it does. Yeah, exactly. If you just, make the same setup, however you can. It is funny how it goes from being really glamorous, like Abbey Road style,
Yeah.
you know, to no, even Ed Sheeran was
Corner
famous for
bedroom.
recording things in like just in any old room, and yeah.
Okay, right, let's bring it back.
Yeah.
Joplin House. Do you want to do this time or last time? Where do you want to start?
Shall I do this time?
Yeah.
And then this time part of it, the first sort of hour was me kind of reassess, like being, oh my god, it's the same space I was here over so long ago, literally 13 years before. And so you go in, and then Dan showed me a bit around, because now there's like accommodation at the back, which is a whole thing, which is really cool. But no, I think the biggest thing was that I sat down with Dan. It was just him and me, and I opened my laptop and I showed him my demo of Overboard, which is filled with very MIDI sounding instruments. So for people who are not into music recording, MIDI is very, very electronic. It's very fake sounding. It's very not necessarily what you hear on the radio, but electronic music actually does do it loads. And I remember loving certain bits, especially some lines I'd sung in my demo. And I said to Dan, like, to be honest, I do want to just replicate this. And he went, that's absolutely fine. You're in charge. It was that moment of, you're the boss. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I really there was like some shouting and wailing. It's very subtle. So if you hear Overboard, you have to maybe listen out for it, or the banshee wailing is what I call it.
Yeah.
It's there.
It's definitely there. Definitely there. It's very you.
Yeah. And I was like, I really wanted something that was a bit odd in this song, like something a bit weird. And he said, yeah, okay. And we actually ended up just literally dragging some files into the main one, which that's not a cheat or anything. That's absolutely legit, because I just recorded that on my own in my own house, like the way we've just said, like in a bedroom kind of thing. So that was really good, because it meant the song that is out now, it is so close to that demo that I showed to you, we got excited about, grew to love, because that's another issue. When you do a demo and you listen to it and you like it, less and less do you want to make changes.
Yes.
And then often you'd go to a recording engineer and he'd go, cool, well, if he's a producer as well, he'll pick it apart. And you'll be like, no, I loved it how it was.
And it makes you come across as the difficult one, which we've kind of experienced a little bit now, but it's and I think because Overboard had been there for so long as well, so it wasn't like, you know, sometimes if you do these recordings and you do like the retreat, like you said, Dan's got accommodation things, not always, you know, usually you would sort of start with your demos that have already been sent and some work's been done. But some people use these places to write and start from the beginning. So you've kind of only had a day or 2 days with this music to then want someone's opinion on it, for them to pick it apart, and you're a bit like, absolutely.
You haven't grown to love it.
We've had it 2 years. We've listened to it. We've
envisaged the video. We've done it.
And then if somebody turned around and said, I'm going to change this and this, it's a hard pill to swallow. But Dan wasn't. No, he was like
so cool. And actually, even more than that, the things he then suggested to add, because we had a really limited amount of time as well to record this. So the vocals and everything, we did the main vocals and a lot of the backing, we did redo there and then, because it has
quality.
Really good equipment. Yeah, exactly. Like the stuff I had doing demos didn't compete, obviously. But like, and then drumming, bass he did, literally there and then, just in front of the computer. But he would. So there's another thing. If you go to a very a decent quality recording studio, they often pay for samples, so you can pay for sounds.
Yes.
And they are very legit. One of them is literally called Hans Zimmer's Orchestra, and it's Hans Zimmer, the film composer. He has recorded samples for people just like Dan and me and everyone to use in their songs. So, and it's now used so commonly, it's not, you couldn't say it's cheating. It's like, no, the whole industry works like this, because no one can afford to get in a whole orchestra. Or whatever. So Dan was like looking through the library of different sounds, and he found this really big clanky piano. And the fact that he'd picked that out, I was like, you are on the same wavelength as me. Because it was just it was a slightly unhinged sound. I didn't want it to sound bubblegummy. I didn't want the whole thing to be squeaky clean and perfect. I wanted it to be a bit like icky, you know? Like that, but in a sound. And he did this, he just like played some sounds. We were like, yeah, but it's a really subtle thing. You won't necessarily hear it in the song, but it just adds to me. It just, yeah, it was a fun moment. I was like, okay, cool. Now we're like having fun playing with sounds. I've never actually done that before because we were so limited. We had to use the instruments we had and make weird sounds with those instruments. But it was, different kind of process.
Nice. But the thing is, like you say, it might be bits that people don't hear. And I think that's from the position that I've come from, especially I think we've kind of touched on how we're waiting on recordings at the moment. And it's like, are they good enough?
Yeah.
As a whole, as the writer, and where you've written these specific bits of music for it, you hear all of that.
Yeah.
So it does matter.
It does.
And,
yes, you're right.
Bringing the little parts, and especially in the recording process, because you're recording it bit by bit by bit by bit, you are hearing these as like a little part to make sure it's right, as opposed to when it all gets built together. And then someone hears the final version. That's absolutely fantastic. Yes, but did you hear that bit in the middle eight that was just a little bit? You're the only one that's going to like really hear that. Yeah,
it is just like making a cake. And it really is, because the person at the end just eats the cake. The cook knows every little bit that's gone into that cake, and they know if they tweaked it this way a little bit, the output would have been just a bit more, whatever, sweeter, chocolatier, whatever. And
that's a really cute analogy.
It is, isn't it? And the other thing with that analogy, I'm not sure it actually sticks with cake at this stage, but the fewer and the best quality of ingredients makes the best cake. Like, don't put in, if you start just chucking everything in the bowl and hoping for the best. This was what we learned as a band in all these years gone by, that we learned by experience to not do that. Like, just don't keep littering it with things. Don't keep sprinkling things in, because all you're doing is just detracting from whatever,
spreads it thin.
It just makes a kind of more of a confusing mess rather than a sound that is really well made. Yeah.
Perfect.
No, it's funny.
So recording experiences, I mean, particularly at home, and I know this is, multiple people, very different situation. Tended to be kind of afternoon into evening.
Yes.
Worked very late. How did it work with Dan?
So Dan, how did we do it? We agreed to do sort of, I think 2 8-hour days or something, or 1 8-hour. No, 2 8-hour days. And so it was literally, right, let's arrive. It doesn't have to be crack of dawn, but let's do like 9 to 5 or whatever, and then if it goes into the evening a bit more, that's okay, because so you do a full day stint. It's like a full-on stint, so you treat it as a working day in a way. And then I think he said 8 hours, and if we go into 12, we'd go into, he kind of had it as that thing, because it might be that suddenly you do kind of pick up energy for the evening, because it's funny, because in that working day, it is working day, but you are, you can choose your lunch breaks when you like, but you kind of, the energy output is, there'll be times where I'm just waiting for Dan to do his thing, and there'll be times where he's waiting for me to warm up, and so you can't, there's a bit of a relay of give and take. You're not 100% all the time. That's what I'm trying to say. And so go and sort of whiz out, get lunch, come back, you have a kind of bit of time there, but you are paying for this time in the studio, so it's mad to take the piss at that stage. You just have to like not push it, but definitely don't be lazy. Get on with it.
And did it feel more structured in that respect because it was out of home?
Yes.
So obviously we're talking about Joplin now, and we had done Vader Studios, which was really structured because we were up there in the accommodation as well. But prior to that, the band at home,
oh my gosh,
very different.
Completely different. So that's really interesting. Living in your recording studio, basically living with it, so accessible, and everyone always there ready to you at any point you'd be on call to be collared and can you do your part, because he then needs to do his part after you and whatever.
But did that feel more which way round was it that was more forced? Because you've paid for Dan's time. If you had woken up that morning for Joplin House and not been feeling it, very different kettle of fish to being at home being like, well, actually I could do this tomorrow. Or does that make you almost a bit more, not lazy,
but no, you can always procrastinate then. No, that's a really good point. I'm trying to remember how there were definitely times it was like, Dolls, can you go and record, do your bit? And I'd be like, definitely. It was because it was kind of, generally we never said, oh, we'll do it like later. It was always like, no, if we need to do it, we'll do it now.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. With any member of the group, we kind of just stepped up and did it. There might have been, maybe one or two of us would be a bit more kind of flaky and pick and choose, but the rest of us kind of just had to do it.
And there is an aspect of having everything ready.
Yeah.
And like this was James's job, essentially.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you're wasting his time.
He was 24 hours up there. Exactly. Yeah. So, and that is the thing. You literally are living and breathing with the people who are relying on you to do it.
Yeah.
So you kind of are a bit beholden to them, and that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
To get your part done or whatever. But yeah, no, it was the only other thing with it is just that a big difference was having a group of people around you versus having just the one, and actually recording as the band. And when it was just James and me, because we recorded for years and years, so there would be times where like whole afternoons, just me and him. And that would be a very quick, I do prefer just recording with like the only other people that need to be there being there.
Yeah.
But I remember I was recording a violin part, and it was, everyone was having their input, and it would kind of become a bit of a sort of open to the floor thing where like, I'll record a bit, and of course you're really isolated when you're recording.
Yeah.
You can't see anyone else. You can't see if they're putting faces to each other. You can't see eye contact. You're just playing into this dark abyss. And often they would be fine. Then afterwards it would be, okay, cool, but can you make this part a bit more like this? And then you might hear a little discrepancy about it if someone else doesn't agree. And then you're at the end, you think, I don't know what to do now. Like I'm not doing the part I was practicing for ages.
Yeah.
It's kind of developing as
changed,
it goes, which is kind of, that's absolutely fine. But that in itself puts you in a strange headspace because you're kind of on the back foot, but you're needing to think of ideas as you go along. So it's a bit, but it is actually just part of the process. I'm not dissing that. It's hard when you have more feedback than you want. That's a nice way of putting it. Yeah. But yeah. The other thing with going to Joplin House, I had paid to use the space with, someone who was just paid to be there. There was no extra affiliation with Dan. He was there to get my song as a file.
Yeah.
When you're recording with your friends or in a group, it's suddenly, if you've had a bad day with someone, they'll make you pay for it when you're in the recording studio. Just be like, yeah, you can do again though, better though, can't you? Sorry, I'm
voice experience. No. This is what we're here for.
But it was, and that you don't get that. Also, I mean, like I say, we recorded for years and years and years as the group, so it wasn't like always. It would never be easy and fun and happy every day. It just isn't with anyone. So, but yeah, looking back, I can laugh at that. At the time, it was really annoying.
Right, so Overboard recording day.
Yeah.
So you did a couple of days.
Yes.
Did it flow quite nicely? Was it what you expected, and especially comparing it to like Vader?
Yeah. Do you know what? It flowed suspiciously easily.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, this is weird. We had simplified things purposefully. We'd said like, okay, as much of this, we are going to like use samples, or we will drag in from my demo. Or so there was like, but that in itself meant that the process was like, let's make it as easy and doable and finished as quickly as possible. But with the best, I don't know. It was,
there was almost no room for no room for movement in a diva-ish, that is it, end of discussion. But in a, you were already happy with it.
Yeah.
It was almost a duplication of.
Yeah. And actually, exactly. I was already happy with it, and I'd managed to achieve that sound using very, very little. So it wasn't as if we needed to bring in 5 extra people with all their instruments to come and like do their role, because they didn't need to have a role. So that meant it was so streamlined and so sort of efficient, which is not what you want to say with music, but it kind of was. What was really fun and interesting was actually when I'd got round to getting the singing recorded, which you always end up doing later in the day, because you have to actually build the rest of the song first. I was in the booth, and obviously it was just me and Dan, and I went through the first verse, because again, I did all the verses first, or a few run-throughs all the way through, and then did the first verse. And Dan said, it's brilliant, sounding great, give me a bit less. though. And then I sort of gave him a bit less. And he went, yeah, that's cool. Just give me a little bit less. Like, and he meant in terms of like, because it's obviously it's salt in the air, it's the first time. And I was giving it loads of sass. And he was like, it will sound much more sassy if you don't give it the sass.
Yeah.
Like, or give it like 0.5% of the sass you're giving it. And then, of course, by the end of it, I'm really shouty and in that big
it builds it right back
bridge
up.
bit, and that's the point. So, I mean, but it was cool. It sounded much more effortless. That's something I could not have gauged. Only Dan or someone of his caliber can gauge that, because he's so good at what he does. But that was really interesting. So on my side, I was like, yeah, but you know, I thought I was sounding like Billie Eilish. I thought I was giving nothing, you know, making a point of how sort of, you know,
it's just, naturally just calm,
no energy coming out of you kind of thing. And but actually there were so many little subtle things I couldn't tell I was giving, and he was like, yeah, that is what we're hearing. Like, it's okay, you are giving out some character and energy in it, it's just that you're too used to it and you can't tell. And it was so weird, but really fun. And you have to have so much trust in that person, because they're dictating how a big part of your song is going, like the main lead line. And
do you think you had a bit more trust in Dan because he wasn't a stranger and he'd seen you and heard your music throughout?
Absolutely, yeah, you're right, yeah, because and it must be so interesting for him, because he obviously, so winding back 12 years or 13 years, he was the first person to ever record me. So he had a girl that clearly could sing. She had sung in public a lot, but she'd never been up to, you know, with a mic recording ever. So he had to kind of hone it. I can't actually remember doing a lot of honing. It was just like, you know, keep going until we've got the take kind of thing. And then he's seen it progress. He's heard recordings all the way through these 10 years, 13 years from other people. Yeah. So he kind of knew my voice as like baby voice, even up to sort of mature today voice. And he kind of knew how to get the most out of it. And the trust did come from having known him all those years.
Yeah.
And having a history at all.
Yeah.
Because
and not trying to make you into somebody else.
And exactly that. I was just going to say, going to a new person, there will be so many fantastic recording engineers, but some will just hear what you are and go, cool, well, I know I can make it sound like this. I know this works.
Yeah,
so
you sound a bit like her.
It would be, some people like that. That approach works for lots of people, but it was really good that Dan was like, no, I know how to get the most out of your voice. Yeah. It's quite intimate. It is quite intimate. I remember that was, it's like a sort of weird, you have to get to know people in a really sub-level.
And quickly.
And very quickly. So you kind of, if everything's gone well and you've all got on, you leave the room always feeling quite like good, because it's a weird experience you don't have in daily life. Like, you get to know like the nuances of someone's voice, and then know how to like manipulate it in a good way for their sake. It's really, it's fun though.
Good.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, no way would you play on my mind and go and start waving bye-bye.